Big issue over the last 24 hours has absolutely got to be that annual threat assessment from ASIO boss Mike Burgess. In the PM speech today, yes, he canvassed broad topics, but there was a bit of detail there about the AUKUS sub deal, and who better than the Australian's foreign editor Greg Sheridan to go through all of that. Now, that speech last night from Mike Burgess, I don't want people at home to think it was an unusual speech in the sense that he does this every year. This hive of spies line and pointing to particular categories that were targeted. I mentioned journalists, academics, judges. What did you make of the speech?
Well, Peter, it's great to be with you. I thought it was a fine speech by Mike Burgess. We have been very well served in this country by our ASIO chiefs, Dennis Richardson, David Irvin, Mike Burgess. These are just outstanding Australians, and they've increasingly had a public education role as well as an intelligence chief role. Now, he's telling the Australian public about the level of threat that we're facing. Everybody knows that a lot of countries are active in this country, but it's mainly China. We all know that, even though I'm disobeying. He said, don't speculate about which country.
We all know the country, don't we?
Yeah, I'm not going to obey. Much as I admire Mike, I'm not going to obey him. It's mainly China. So he's telling us about the level of threat. He's also telling them that ASIO is aware of everything that they're doing. And you're seeing an increasing practice of Western intelligence agencies now to disclose where they can intelligence. But the bit of his speech that I found disturbing was when he said he'd come under pressure from some business people, some senior public servants and others to go easy on the pursuit of foreign spies. Again, read China. I'm very glad he disclosed that. I think it's disturbing. The Prime Minister correctly backed him up today at the press club.
You may not have heard it before, but at the top of the show I made the point. I remember getting calls from these business types, billionaire business types, at the time we were doing the free trade agreement, to have nothing to say about the Uyghurs and human rights abuses in China. Now, that's one thing coming into a political staffer. It's quite another thing to make those sorts of comments. And he mentions they're coming out of the bureaucracy as well to our ASIO chief. I thought that was a damning indictment that still around Canberra there are these mandarins who swallow the old China line.
Well, that's right, Peter. I think that was the most disturbing element of his speech. You remember, was it the election before last when Paul Keating, a former Prime Minister, said the intelligence chiefs had gone troppo
That's exactly
on China?
Right. Yes.
Now, that's a very disturbing event, development, because there's a former Prime Minister trying to deauthorise the national security agencies with the Australian public and with political activists. So I don't want to get too paranoid about this, but Mike is a very sober guy and he wouldn't have said these things if they weren't pretty serious. And I think, it's a very important public warning. But again, I'd pay tribute to the government, which has plainly, these speeches don't get made sort of without being seen by Prime Minister's offices and Attorney General's offices in advance. So they've authorised this material to go out. And when asked about it today at the press club, the Prime Minister backed ASIO 100%. So this is a powerful message from the organs of the Australian government and national security about what's happening in our society.
When we talk about, and he references uncovering certain activities, how much do you think we pick up and how much we are exposed that we don't pick up?
I guess there's a fair bit we don't pick up. You'd have to look at the history. So in a sense, you don't know what you don't know. But
Yes.
if you look at the history of the Russian and Chinese infiltration of American and British agencies and society generally.
Burgess and
Burgess, McLean. There's also that guy Aldrich Ames and so on, and lots of others. Now, the official history of ASIO itself says that ASIO was penetrated by Russian intelligence. They were never able to bring charges, but this is the judgment of the very conservative and sober, correctly so, official history of ASIO. Now, Mike Burgess is telling us that we've never been under more, widespread, large-scale espionage, cyber and so on assault. So you'd have to imagine there's a fair bit that we don't pick up.